One of my viewers asked me my opinion on Vril energy. Now, people that aren't aware of Vril, Vril was the definition of a mystical energy, like a life force that was mentioned in a book called The Coming Race, which was highly influential, kind of like how The Lord of the Rings is highly influential to nationalists today, or Star Wars is highly influential of nationalists today. This book, The Coming Race, was highly influential to the SS, especially the Ahnenerbe, which were under the command of Heinrich Himmler. And they were also influenced by Guido von List's concepts of Armanism and, of course, the concepts of theozoology. But I'm going to keep to the question of Vril energy. My thoughts on Vril energy is that it's real, but that it's not a mystical energy, that it is actually the multiple life-sustaining energies produced by the body. And I'm going to get into the origins of Vril energy and the influence of people like the psychiatrist and sex maniac Wilhelm Reich. Okay, the dude Wilhelm Reich, who was also a member of the New School, and prior to that a member of the Frankfurt School. But he was also highly influential, along with Rudolf Steiner, in the creation of things, the mystical sciences, of the Ahnenerbe and the SS in Germany. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of Armanism and a lot of the National Socialist mysticism, that which does not come from Hinduism or Buddhism, but that which comes from Germany, that what is from Germany, comes a lot from Yiddish and other Ashkenazi Jewish mysticism and things of that nature. And you would not know that unless you studied Kabbalah. I've studied Kabbalah along with other forms of occultism. And that's where you start to see it, because obviously Guido von List is not going to be like, and Anton Drexler, they're not going to be like, oh, by the way, our system of magic is totally Jewish. You know what I mean? So that's the one important thing that you have to understand, is there is a lot of influence from Kabbalah. A lot of influence from Kabbalah and the other Western magical traditions, like the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons are mentioned. In fact, Guido von List wrote a whole book about Freemasonry and its role in the Thule Society and the Vril Society, and his own understanding of the importance of Freemasonry and Germanic nationalism and things of that nature. So Freemasonry is credited with being seminal to the concepts of National Socialist occultism. So that's allowed. Okay, so remember that Freemasonry is given credit. I don't believe, I've never read his book, but I don't believe he's crediting the Kabbalistic aspects of Freemasonry, though. I think that's just ignored. But I would have to read the book. I've only read excerpts of the book and things like that. So I don't know for a fact that he's ignoring it, but I would assume that he is. Now, let's get back to the reality of Vril energy. And then I'll get into the cultivation of Vril energy. So Vril energy is the same thing as Chi, Ki, Orgone, animal magnetism, prana, kundalini, jing. All these things are mana, Rausch energy. These are all the same thing. And they are the vital essence of life. Okay? And they are both present inside organic life forms and outside in the forms of electromagnetism, electricity, radiation, etc. Now, the concept of vitalism is kind of frowned upon. But I think the Miller-Urey experiment, or Miller-Urey experiment, which took inorganic gases and circulated them through a circulator and zapped them with a static electric spark, showed spontaneous organization from inorganic gases into amino acids and proteins with the application of vital essence. The vital spark does create the vital essence of life, which are amino acids and proteins. So it can take, through the application of an external form of energy, such as geothermal vents, solar radiation, or electricity, these concepts of the black sun, these things help to organize the inorganic into the organic, meaning it makes the non-living living, basically. Now, if you keep it circulating, we really don't know where that's going to end up. I believe the experiment is still going, and there's a link in the description to that experiment. So vitalism is frowned upon, and this is one reason that naturopathy is frowned upon. But the truth be told, and remember, I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, not a scientist. This is not medical advice. This video does not constitute medical advice. So, this is one of the reasons naturopathy is frowned upon. What's interesting is traditional Chinese medicine, which is a little bit more ridiculous, actually a lot bit more ridiculous, is championed, okay? Shamanism is championed. If you're a goofball and you're not white, it's championed, okay? However, if you're a Westerner, even if you're of a certain tribe, like Wilhelm Reich was, and you discover something like orgone energy, oh my God, that's pseudoscience. We can't believe in pseudoscience. We're going to have to arrest you, throw you in prison, and burn all of your books. Okay? Now remember, Wilhelm Reich, a Jewish research scientist, fled Nazi-occupied Europe to come to America to escape things like the burning of books by Jewish scientists. Keep that in mind, okay? So you have Wilhelm Reich escaping Nazi-occupied Germany and Austria, where he was Austrian, to come to the United States to escape book burnings. And he was arrested, died in prison, and had his work, his research on orgone energy burnt to a crisp. Now, was Wilhelm Reich a sex maniac? Yes. Did he champion sexual liberation? Yes. But was his research bad? No. His research on orgone energy was not bad, but it was definitely burnt. Okay? Keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind, because where this goes is I'm going to explain. So, there have been numerous applications of vital energy in the practice of mainstream medicine that have been laughed out of it. Okay? Keep that in mind. So you have John Harvey Kellogg talking about this. You have Ellen G. White talking about this. You have Wilhelm Reich talking about this. You have a lot of people talking about this, but it's not cool. It's not cool to be talking about this in mainstream medicine, even though it's real. Okay? It's demonstrably true. Yeah, you can't put your finger on exactly what it is, but it's demonstrably true. So we go a little further, we go a little further, we go a little further. We're at a point now where traditional Chinese medicine, which makes use of the same concepts of John Harvey Kellogg's Biologic Living, makes use of the same concepts of Wilhelm Reich's concepts of naturopathy, but it has a lot more mysticism, a lot more magic, a lot more hiya, hoya, hiya, hoya in it, and that's accepted as medicine. It's championed by the World Health Organization as legitimate medicine. But people like John Harvey Kellogg and people like Wilhelm Reich and people like Hulda Clark and people like Max Gerson, and people like these people, they're laughing stocks in the medical community, despite the fact that what they're saying is real and it works. Even people like Arthur Yanov, who was less freaky deaky. I think what my point is if you call it something like naturopathic medicine, and if you research it in a very scientific way, in a very clean scientific way, in a very Western way, you're considered a crazy person. However, if you call it something like ching chong ching, ching a ching ching chong ching, keep the chings chonging. If you call it something like that, that's all well and good. That's not frowned upon. That's considered to be the in thing. Another thing that's interesting is theosophy, which was where a lot of these concepts in National Socialist mysticism come from, is still very prominent amongst the intelligentsia of Europe and the United States and elsewhere. Now, theosophy is a bunch of baloney, okay? And this is what I'm trying to explain. Theosophy is popular amongst the intelligentsia. Rosicrucianism is popular amongst the intelligentsia. What is not popular amongst the intelligentsia is things like biologic living. So, after I went on that rant, I'm going to talk about cultivating Vril, or vital essence. Okay? There are a lot of ways to do this. Okay? Some of the more ridiculous are the Western magical traditions. Some of the more direct are the meditative practices covered in, like, for example, that book I reviewed, Therapeutic Breathing, and that's under my book reviews. So, this is the one place where I will say Chinese Qigong is superior to the West, or is it? Or is it? No, it's not. I recently started studying polyvagal theory upon the direction of my last therapist. And the other thing is, prior to polyvagal theory, you have the relaxation response, which does the same thing as these meditative practices from China, from Tibet, from India, but it's far more direct. Far, 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 far more direct, far more explained with science, and far more approachable for the Westerner. So, in my opinion, the way we cultivate vital essence, or vril, or chi, or ji, or jing, or kundalini, or mana, etc., is by cultivating our health. The more practical means of cultivating our health is through dietary regulation, breath control, and physical exercise. Drawing different runes on a candle or any other nonsense like that, or practicing these mystical arts, is not going to get you where you want to be. I know because I was there. Okay? I know because I was there. When I was a young, a preteen, a teen, and a young adult, I was practicing ceremonial magic. It took the teachings of Aleister Crowley to bring me to the teachings of different Asiatic mysticisms, like yoga primarily, and Taoist Qigong and Buddhist Qigong, for me to grasp that there is a better way, okay? And that way was, at the time, yoga and Qigong. Then, upon discovering the Seventh-day Adventist lifestyle of Ellen G. White, that brought me to John Harvey Kellogg's Biologic Living, which is more potent than yoga and more potent than Qigong. And, of course, with the direction of my last therapist on the polyvagal theory and the relaxation response I came to on my own when I was researching how to control my tachycardia. But the polyvagal theory, that is something light years ahead of its time, which is amazing because that came out in 1994, polyvagal theory. And I'm going to explain this. Polyvagal theory is used to treat PTSD and anxiety disorders and things like that. This research came out in 1994, okay? 94 to 2004, 2004 to 2014. It's 2021. It's well over 20 years, and that's still not being used in clinic to help people with post-traumatic stress disorder, okay? And it works. That's the thing. Nothing's going to cure it, but it works. It works. 20 years later, it's still not a regular thing being used in clinic. Okay? Now, some of the examples, now people that practice these, people drawn to things like Vril, they want magical powers. They want to be able to fly through the night sky and morph into a werewolf and morph into it. That's not going to happen. Some interesting aspects of Vril or Chi or Ki, or actually at the time it was called animal magnetism, come from the work of Franz Anton Mesmer. And I'm going to leave a link to mesmerism so people can see it. Now, mesmerism is different than hypnosis because you are using your animal magnetism to entrance the other person. Mesmerism works on any living thing. Any living thing. So that's how you know mesmerism ain't no joke. You can mesmerize an animal if you know how to practice mesmeric glance. You can mesmerize a dog, a cat, a chicken, a pig, a raccoon. It does not matter. You are transferring your mesmeric energy, your animal magnetism up on that animal and gaining control of that animal's body and mind through the use of your animal magnetism. I am not a mesmerist. I can't do that. There are people that can, and there are very clear examples of it happening. What's his name? Grigory Rasputin was one that was famous, that allegedly fixed the young prince of Russia who was a hemophiliac. He healed him through mesmeric influence. Mesmeric influence was used a lot of times in medicine, and it did work. That's what you have to understand. It is written down that these things did work. They were real. They were reproducible. And that's what is funny, is this stuff is legit. And then what you see being practiced in the mainstream medicine now is Chinese traditional blah, 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 blah. Now, orthomolecular medicine, which is basically biochemistry, and naturopathy, real naturopathy, and things like that are laughed at. But Chinese traditional medicine, or shamanism, or this happy horse shit, or that happy horse shit, or what have you, or, that's real. Even faith healing, true faith healing, which is the use of the Holy Spirit, which is the Christian word for chi, ki, rausch, orgone, animal magnetism, whatever, call it the Holy Spirit. True faith healing, not the hocus pocus, but it can take place. It is noted to have taken place. Okay, and that's the thing, is what's funny is if you're white, if you're a Westerner, what you're doing is hocus pocus, it's not science. If you're not white, if you're from the far reaches of the Orient, and if you're talking like this, and you're talking very mystically, and you say, you probably are going to get more respect by saying things that are a hell of a lot more ridiculous than what Westerners would say. So my thoughts on Vril energy. Vril energy is legit. It's real. The people peddling it probably are not, because they are very much tied to Armanism, like the Guido von List Armanism, and they're also tied to Theosophy. Both of those I see as trash, and I think that the study of like Wilhelm Reich's works, and I think the study of relaxation response techniques, polyvagal theory, Ellen G. White's writings, John Harvey Kellogg's writings, and even the writings and the practice of yoga and Taoist meditation, Qigong, even this new type of Qigong that came out of China called Falun Gong or Falun Dafa, which is hated in China because it makes use of the Holy Spirit. I'll leave a link to Falun Gong and Falun Dafa. I don't have any beef with any of this. Mix and match it if you want, but what I would do is I would practice enough of one system, whether it's Qigong or Tantric Yoga or Tibetan Tantric Yoga, Tibetan Buddhist Tantric Yoga, and I would definitely engage in physical exercise after talking to your doctor, of course, and I would engage in a health-promoting vegan diet. You can find resources on the internet to what that would look like, and you also need to understand the glorification of vegetarianism. Remember the Vril, which were the race in the coming race that lived in the center of the earth, lived in a utopian lifestyle. Now, of course, I don't believe that the Vril exist, blah, 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 but it's an allegory to the ascendant masters of theosophy, which allegedly exist too. I don't really buy that. But what it is the Vril, which live in the center of the earth, they allegedly live in a utopian society and follow an entirely vegan diet. Similar to the ascendant masters of Shangri-La of theosophy, and you might want to learn about Helena Blavatsky just to learn about her. She's a joke of a person, but it might be interesting to learn about her and like her book Isis Unveiled and things like that. And also Edgar Cayce is interesting, and he's back and forth theosophy, this and that. He's a Christian mystic. And that's all for this video.